Good morning, church. If you were to compile all of the digital information on the internet in the form of bytes, there's somewhere around 147 zettabytes. To put this in perspective, it's estimated that it would take approximately 33 million human brains to hold this much information. I'll grant you that a lot of this is duplicate info on the internet, a lot of it is useless, and then much more than we would like is vulgar. But even if we filtered out the bad, there's a massive amount of data out there. We live in an age where we can find what we're looking for with just a few clicks. You can sit at your computer and have more information at your fingertips than you would find in all of the Library of Congress or even the Library at Alexandria. And this is all well and good. But I think in our day and age, we tend to conflate or equate information, knowledge, and wisdom. It goes something like this. If I have lots of information, then I'll have lots of knowledge. If I have lots of knowledge, then I'll have lots of wisdom. However, I think this is clearly wrong for a few different reasons. First, we all know someone who has lots of information in their head. They have a lot of knowledge, but we would say they're a far cry from being a wise person. We also know people with limited formal education who exhibit great wisdom. Second, economists, campaign managers, scientists, and even fantasy football fanatics love data. If you have read the book or watched the movie Moneyball, then you know how powerful this can be. Billy Beane and Peter Brand used data to put together a winning Major League Baseball team. However, data is at best useless or at worst deadly when it is run through a mind that has no wisdom. Third, these terms, information, knowledge, and wisdom, they all denote different things, and I think this is pretty clear. Information would be something like data compiled so that it can be used. Knowledge is information that is brought into the mind. And wisdom is something like the ability to discern or judge what is good, true, and beautiful as God sees it. Or maybe something like this, knowing the greatest goal in any situation and the best way to achieve that goal. Even if we were to disagree on the way I've defined these, it's pretty clear that these are not synonyms. The Bible speaks of the great importance of knowledge. For example, in Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, it says that God's people are destroyed because of the lack of knowledge. However, knowledge is not sufficient. It is not enough to produce godliness. Think about the demons. They have knowledge. In fact, James in his epistle tells us that they have belief in God and belief that God is one. However, this is not saving faith, nor is it wisdom. The Bible puts a premium on wisdom. In fact, there are whole books of the Bible dedicated to wisdom. We know that Jesus grew in wisdom as a boy and a young man. Proverbs, which is one of those wisdom books that I mentioned, says in chapter 2, verses 6 through 9, says this, "For the Lord grants wisdom. From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. He grants a treasure of common sense to the honest. He is a shield to those who walk with integrity. He guards the paths of the just and protects those who are faithful to him. Then you will understand what is right, just, and fair, and you will find the right way to go." Therefore, as a Christian, we need to seek wisdom. That's incredibly important for us. And it's going to take a lot more than just a Google search to get there. So how do we do this? How do we grow in wisdom? This could go on very long, but let me give you just 4 quick pointers from Scripture. First, we're to fear God. In Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7, it says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, and that fools despise wisdom and instruction. Second, we are to ask God for wisdom. James chapter 1, verse 5 says this, "If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach." Next, we read Scripture. Proverbs chapter 2, verse 6 says this, "For the Lord gives wisdom, and from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding." And keep in mind that Scripture itself is breathed out by God. Next, we are to seek wise counsel. Proverbs chapter 12, verse 15 says this, "The way of the fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice." Wisdom doesn't come easy, but it is worth it. I'm going to be praying for you this week when it comes to gaining wisdom. I ask that you take this seriously and that you think about gaining wisdom in your own life by fearing God, asking God for wisdom, reading the Scriptures, and seeking wise counsel. I ask that you'll be praying for me so that I will do the same. I'll see you next week.